Welcome to the Rena Malik MD podcast. We're joined here with Rena Malik MD. Thank you for always providing us with great questions and ideas. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the YouTube comments. We do read the YouTube comments. We do look for feedback, great questions. We do check the social media. We do try to weed out the questions that come up often enough or anything that we find interesting that you guys want to talk about. So let's get into the first question. So the question goes, I don't know why my wife doesn't want to have sex anymore. I asked her and she's always not in the mood. She's tired, she's in a bad mood, etc., etc. She's home all the time with kids, so I'm not sure if the kids are giving her too much stress, but she never wants to do it, and I'm not sure if I can live like this. I know this is not exactly a medical question because my penis works just fine, but I think she needs to be seen by a doctor for this problem. But I don't know what to do or who she should go see for this. This is from Lau. I don't want to give out the username. Lau, this is what he's got going on. What do you think, Doc?
So, Lau, this is so common. We see in people who are in long-term relationships, particularly around midlife, right? Your career is at its height usually. You've got kids, usually young kids. They're demanding a lot of your time. That can affect desire. Now, I want to be clear here that this is an issue of mismatched desire. You want sex and she doesn't want it all the time, right? And if you're not having sex at all, usually the definition of sexless marriage in terms of research is less than 10 times a year. What does that matter, right? It matters that you guys are on the same page, right? That you are both feeling that you are getting satisfied and you are happy and pleased with the situation. Now, I don't want to say that your partner is the wrong one and you're the right one. It's a relationship issue, right? It's an issue of you wanting it more, she wanting it less. There's no right or wrong here, right? It's about finding what's right for your relationship so that you both compromise and make it work for you. Now, what are some reasons that this happens? Well, one is that as relationships are in long-term relationships, you find that desire changes. Very often men continue to have this spontaneous desire where they see their partner, they get turned on or aroused, and they want to have sex, right? And they don't have to be in the right state of mind all the time. And so that's sort of what we see on TV, right? You see someone, you're so turned on and you immediately go and have sex with them, right? But that's not necessarily what happens in real life, in real relationships. Now, I don't want to generalize. Sometimes men don't feel this way, but I will say more commonly men have spontaneous desire. Now, women tend to have or develop responsive desire. So what that means is they actually need to sort of allow themselves to remind themselves what is getting them turned on. So for example, when you are with your partner, you may not be in the mood right away, but you lie with them, you snuggle with them, you start touching them, they start touching you, and then they start feeling desire because oh, I used to like this. This is really fun. It's actually making me turned on. I actually now want to have sex, but I didn't want to initially. And so this is actually very common. It is not a bad thing. It's not something is wrong with you. It's a matter of how do we navigate this, right? So that you can get to a point where you're both satisfied with how much sex you're having. And so the one thing I talk to people is one, of course, you've got to decrease the stress in your life as much as possible. Talk to her, what's going on in your life that is stressing you out and how can I help alleviate that stress? And so, there's all these joking TikToks of men doing housework and women this is how I get turned on, right? And I don't think it's that men have to do housework. I think it's just feeling like you're getting supported or you're feeling like someone's trying to alleviate your stress. So everyone is going to be different for them, what that is. But figuring out a way to alleviate that, or if you can get help and afford help, getting help around the house or help with the kids or whatever it is going to be helpful. And then the other thing is actually scheduling time for intimacy. So we spend a lot of our lives scheduling workouts, scheduling brunches with friends, scheduling meetings, scheduling our kids' activities, whatever it is, right? But we don't ever prioritize our relationship. Yeah, we'll go on date night, but is that intimate? I don't know if that's really intimate enough, right? You're just having dinner, you're having a meal together, and you might be enjoying your time with each other, but are you actually spending time that is meant for you to like enjoy each other, right? So it doesn't mean that you want to schedule like we're going to have sex at this moment and time on this day, because that can cause stress on both ends, right? It may cause stress in the person who has low desire because they're like, what if I don't want to? And it may cause stress in the person with high desire because they may be like, well, what if I don't perform well at this exact moment, at this exact time, right? And so ultimately you just want to say, look, we're just going to prioritize each other. We're going to not eat first. We're going to like lie down together, take a bath together, do something that's sort of intimate, whatever that is for you guys. And it could be in a new location, incorporate some novelty in there. And we're not going to have any expectations, but we're just going to prioritize each other. We're not going to look at our phones. We're not going to do other things. We're going to be really in it with each other and continue doing that every so often. And you can make little like homeworks out of it. Like today we're going to explore our bodies and not do anything sexual. Today we're going to like, try this new thing. And like, if it doesn't work out, like it's not the end of the world. You just keep trying, you keep prioritizing, and eventually you can then reconnect.
Well, so the term is responsive intimacy?
Desire. Responsive
desire. That's a good one. I got to put that into the Google Calendar. All right, here we go. All right, next question. After I pee in the toilet, I still feel pee come out after I shake it. Like when I put it back in my underwear, I still feel some pee come out. How do I stop this? It happens too much. This is from Deepak in India.
All right, Deepak. So this is called post-void dribble, or people call it after dribble. And it is really annoying. And I will tell you that you are not alone. This is very, very common. And there's really like 4 major reasons that we see this happening. So one is as men age, men get a prostate that gets enlarged. And so 80% of 80-year-olds will have an enlarged prostate. And so you can imagine that as people age, you're going to see more symptoms of enlarged prostate. And symptoms can be having trouble peeing, it taking a long time, your stream starts and stops, your stream is a little weaker than usual, and feeling like you're not emptying completely. It can also be things like going often, gotta go, or waking up at night very often to urinate. And so one of the other symptoms of this is post-void dribble. And this can be because you have an enlarged prostate, some of the urine doesn't get out, but it does get into the pee tube. And so when you pee, it's not all empty all the way. And then once you finish, a little bit more dribbles out. So sometimes treating that enlarged prostate can help. Another thing can be having a narrowing in that pee tube or urethral stricture. Now, same as having an enlarged prostate, some urine can get stuck behind that narrowing, which then dribbles out later. Another thing that we often see is sometimes having a weak pelvic floor or having muscles around the urethra that are weaker can make it harder for you to completely sort of propel all that urine out. And then there's some left in the pee tube that dribbles out later. So you can do pelvic floor muscle exercises or Kegel exercises to strengthen the pelvic floor. And this can be sort of like as if you were trying to stop your stream when urinating. Now, you don't want to do these while urinating, but it's sort of how you learn what those muscles are. You don't want to squeeze your abdomen. You don't want to squeeze your bottom. You just want to squeeze those muscles in the pelvic floor and hold them for about 5 seconds and then relax for 5 seconds. You can also sort of like look as if you were trying to lift your penis off the ground without actually touching your penis, or like holding in a fart. So those are sort of ways that you can help yourselves find those muscles and then use them to strengthen the pelvic floor, and that may help you with the dribble. You can also sort of milk the urine out. So you can, that same area of the perineum we talked about earlier, you can actually like use 2 fingers to like push urine out, and hopefully that will help get some of that urine out as well. Otherwise, just shake it and hopefully you'll be okay.
Just shake it. I like it. Gotta shake it out, guys. So that question actually does come up quite often in the comments. I know you did put out a video, so please do check that out. All right, next question. Should I be using a special soap for my vagina to clean it? I had a time when a guy didn't go down on me because he said it smelled a bit. And ever since, I've been self-conscious of this when someone wants to have oral sex with me. MS. That's the initials.
Okay. So one, I will just say that women have been marketed to about vaginal odors and made to feel like their vagina needs to smell like a pina colada or like peaches or like key lime pie. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't need to do any of that. So your vagina has a natural odor to it that actually has pheromones that actually can be sort of arousing to your partner. So as long as you're not having infections, you're not having other issues, it can actually be a fine and actually nice smell for your partner. Now, you don't need a special soap to clean the vagina. Now, the vagina is the internal part, and that you don't need to put soap in or water. In fact, if you do that, you may disrupt the microbiome or the normal, good, healthy bacteria in that area. So you don't want to use soap there. You don't want to take the shower head and put it in the, up there. Like, you don't need to do any of that. What you do need to do is have soap and gentle, sensitive skin soap and put it on the hair-bearing area. So the mons, which is at the top part of the vulva, and then on the sides where there's hair-bearing areas, you can wash the hair because that can get sweaty and have an odor to it. So you want to keep that area clean, but the vagina itself is a self-cleaning oven. And so you don't need to do anything for that because the more you do, in fact, the more harm you may do to yourself. So don't buy any products that you need to clean in the vagina or anything like that. Just plain old, simple, sensitive skin soap on the hair-bearing areas.
Keep it natural, self-cleaning. I like that. Wish my house was self-cleaning.
Me too.
So next question is from Melinda. My boss is always complaining how often I pee. I have to leave the register to do this, which means he needs to cover the register. I think he's just lazy, but I usually just drink a couple of cups of coffee at work, so it's not like I'm drinking a gallon of water or anything like that. I'm only 36, so I can't be having peeing problems this early in life, right? All right, sounds like she's going very frequently. She's 36. She's at work. Maybe she's on her feet. I don't know. So a couple of cups of coffee, it sounds like. Nothing crazy. Boss is not happy with her frequent bathroom breaks.
Thanks for that summary.
Yeah.
So
lot,
sounds like she has urinary frequency. So urinary frequency is typically one of the symptoms of what we call overactive bladder. So overactive bladder can be urinary frequency or going more than 8 times a day. Urinary urgency, like having the strong desire to go to the bathroom that you can't delay. Urgency incontinence, so leaking urine because you can't make it to the bathroom in time. And then nocturia, or waking up at night to urinate often. First things, when you have these issues, we want to rule out anything that might be causing these issues, which could be like having a blockage. So for women, sometimes it can be having prior surgery in that area that could have blocked up the pee tube a little bit so that urine doesn't come out as easily, can cause overactive bladder. It can also be from neurologic causes. So if you have something like multiple sclerosis or other neurologic conditions like Parkinson's disease, which is usually seen in older people, these sorts of things can really affect your bladder function. And then in men, we often see these symptoms in relation to an enlarged prostate, which we talked about earlier. So one, we want to rule out all those things and make sure she's emptying her bladder well. So sometimes we'll find also in these patients that their bladder's not emptying well, particularly if they do a job where they are standing all day and they can't go or they've held their urine for hours at a time, even since they were a young kid. Over time, their bladder can get stretched out and not function as well, not squeeze as well to empty the bladder. And that can then result in your bladder not emptying. So you're having a lot more urine in your bladder at all times. And so your bladder is having these spasms telling you, hey, you got to go, you got to empty this urine. So now what can you do about it? So first off, again, evaluate for all these things. The other thing that sometimes comes up is pelvic floor dysfunction. So having tense pelvic floor muscles, which can occur due to stress, trauma, anxiety, just any sort of life stressors, right? We often see it in type A personalities or people who have a lot of life stressors, that they are tensing up their pelvic floor and they don't really know why they're doing it or that they're doing it at all. It's sort of like TMJ when you go to sleep at night and you grind your teeth because you're getting tense in your jaw and you don't know it. And it's the same thing. Your body is sort of having this reaction And these muscles will then sort of activate the pelvic floor, activate the bladder, and feel like it has to go, even though the bladder is really mostly empty. So first things first, get evaluated by a urologist. Second thing I would say is, what can you do to try to fix this at home? So I've made a whole video on this, but basically you want to watch what you're drinking. You don't want to drink too much, because you're just going to go more, right? So if you're drinking a gallon a day to lose weight, but you're going to the bathroom every 5 minutes, then you got to cut back on how much you're drinking. If you are drinking too little because you're peeing so much, actually that concentrated urine will irritate the bladder and make you feel like you have to go more often. So it's important to drink enough. So I tell people, look at the color of your urine. If it's a lemonade yellow color, you're doing good. If it's darker than lemonade yellow, dark orange, it's too dark, and you drink more. If it's clear, you're drinking too much and you need to drink a little less. So that's number one. Number two is make sure you're avoiding bladder irritants. Now, bladder irritants can be a whole host of things. This can include caffeine, alcohol. Those are the two big ones. She's only drinking a couple cups of coffee, but I don't know how big those cups are. If she's having those big 32-ounce Dunkin' Donut coffees, that's a lot of caffeine.
Those are big.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. And then depending on other things. So some people are really sensitive to citrusy fruits. Some people are sensitive to tomato-based products. Some people are sensitive to artificial sweeteners or carbonated beverages. So I'm not saying you got to get rid of all these things, because it's basically everything that's delicious in life. But sort of like take one thing out of the equation for a couple days and see if it makes a difference. And then making sure you're not constipated, because constipation, and I will tell you, I just had 2 patients today who both had no idea that their constipation was causing their bladder problems. We sent them to the gastroenterologist. They got their constipation under control, and now their bladder symptoms are way better. So it's because, right, it's space occupying. The rectum is behind the bladder, and when it gets full of stool, it's pushing against the bladder and it makes everything a lot worse. And then weight loss can help. We know that if you are overweight and you lose 8% of your body weight, that you will have a significant reduction in urinary symptoms. So these are all things you can work on at home. And then there's a whole host of things that we can offer you as doctors that can help.
Very helpful. Very helpful. Who knows, Melinda, your boss might be lazy after all. You don't know, but that's very helpful. All right. This is from E. Graham. He writes, can I get erectile dysfunction by not having sex with a woman for many years? So sounds like, has it been intimate in a while? What do you think?
You mean like use it or lose it?
Use it or lose it.
I think that's what he's getting at.
Wow. Yeah. We got to put that on a t-shirt somewhere.
So the body has a really great way of sort of maintaining good blood flow to the genitals, even when you're not having sex. So yes, ideally you're having sex, you're getting good blood flow to the genitals very frequently, and that helps, right? Maintain good blood flow and good tissue health. You need good blood flow to make sure that those tissues are healthy. But you may know this, that you wake up with erections, right? And if you're waking up with erections, you are also having erections at night. Usually anywhere between 3 to 6 times at night, your body will have an erection, and women's clitorises will tumesce or get erections as well. And so that's your body's way of physiologically getting more blood flow to those tissues and making sure that your organs stay very healthy. Now, the number one reason that people get erectile dysfunction as they age is because of blood flow problems. It's not because they didn't have sex enough. It's because they have high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, or other vascular problems that will affect blood flow to the penis. They can also develop neurologic problems. They can get prostate surgery. They can take medications that can affect sexual function, or they can have low testosterone. It's usually a smaller subset of people who get erectile dysfunction just from low testosterone. But all of those things combined are usually are usually causing issues with erectile dysfunction. And so, yeah, if you're unwell and unhealthy, like someone who's not had sex for many years, it may be because they're not as healthy as the person who is having sex throughout many, many years. Ultimately, it's not because you're not using it. Your body will take care of you even if you're not having sex, but it's more about making sure you maintain your health. So exercise regularly, eat right, and these things will pay you dividends years and years later.
All right. Let's pull up the next one. This is coming from our member, one of our subscribers. All right, prepare yourself. So it sounds like it's a fetish question. Why is a woman's anal opening erotic to me, as I love anal licking? From no name, but from one of our subscribers.
Yeah, so, the reason people find certain things attractive can be a variety of different things. It can be that it's sort of an off-limits area for most people, and that can be arousing. It can be that maybe he's had some good experiences early on in life with anal play or anal sex, and so he now finds that very erotic. And again, it is not a bad thing. It's not abnormal. There's no one specific reason why people find certain things attractive to them, as long as you're having sex that is safe, consensual, and that is in a safe place. It is totally fine to pursue any sort of fetish or kink as long as you're not harming yourself or harming others. And so I think the more important thing is, if that's what you're into and your partner's good with it, by all means, go ahead. And as long as you're doing it, in a safe place. Thank you guys so much for joining us for today's AMA. If you want to hear the rest of the questions from our members, join our exclusive membership at renamalik.supercast.com, where you can be an exclusive member. You will have early access to all of our YouTube podcasts, video and audio ad-free, and you will get the opportunity to ask me anything, and your questions will be prioritized for all of these episodes in the AMA, and you will get the full AMA episode. So check it out, and as always, remember to take care of yourself because you're worth it.